like you. Be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Na Diorpop. Have you ever seen two people stand side by side, saying nothing, yet somehow speaking the loudest? Moments where silence feels heavier than words, and a single glance carries emotions that can't be explained, only felt. Today, we're not here to rush a story. We're here to slow down. To pay attention to the small details the world often misses, the way a shoulder leans a little closer, the way a hand hesitates before holding on, the way two hearts seem to move in the same rhythm without ever making a promise out loud. In the quiet streets of Lisbon, beneath soft sunlight and golden evenings, Jimin and Jungkook shared moments that felt different. Not loud, not obvious, but undeniably tender. This isn't about rumors or assumptions. It's about feelings that linger in the air, about comfort that doesn't need explanation, about a connection that remains, no matter where the journey leads. So take a breath, let the noise fade, and step with us into Lisbon, where Jikook's love speaks softly, yet stays with you long after the story ends. Lisbon greeted the morning gently. Sunlight slipped through pastel-colored buildings, reflecting softly on ancient cobblestone streets that had carried centuries of stories. This city never rushed. The air was warm, the sky pale blue, and time itself seemed to slow down. It was the kind of place where hearts could breathe, where two souls who had been bound for so long could finally exist without pressure. Jimin stood by the hotel balcony, wrapped in a thin sweater, his hair slightly tousled by the ocean breeze. His gaze was distant, thoughtful, the way it always was in the early hours. Mornings made him honest. Lisbon made him feel small, yet strangely safe. The city asked nothing of him. No smiles, no perfection, no performance. Here, he was simply Park Jimin, a man quietly in love, carrying feelings he had never dared to name out loud. Soft footsteps approached from behind. Jungkook appeared without a sound, holding 2 cups of coffee. His hair was still damp, a simple white shirt clinging effortlessly to him in a way that made Jimin forget how to breathe. Jungkook said nothing. He merely stood beside Jimin, handed him a cup, and looked out at the waking city. The silence between them was heavy, but comfortable. The kind of silence only shared by people who knew each other far beyond words. Jungkook shifted slightly, his shoulder brushing against Jimin's. That small contact was enough to send Jimin's heart racing. Neither of them turned to look. Neither of them spoke. Yet the presence of the other felt overwhelming, more real than anything either of them could say. "I like this city," Jungkook murmured at last. Jimin smiled softly. "Me too." Nothing more was needed. Later that day, they wandered through Lisbon's narrow streets, disguised beneath caps and masks, trying, if only for a moment, to be ordinary. Jungkook walked just a step behind Jimin, as he often did. His hand occasionally brushed against Jimin's back, instinctively guiding him, making sure they never drifted apart. The touch was subtle, unconscious, yet Jimin felt every single one like a quiet promise. In Alfama, the narrow alleys forced them closer together. Jimin nearly stumbled on the uneven stones, and Jungkook reached out without thinking, gripping his arm firmly. Protective. Steady. The hold lasted a second too long to be accidental. Jimin looked up, their eyes meeting, and for a brief moment the world fell silent. No smiles. No laughter. Only a lingering gaze filled with things they had never said. Jungkook released him slowly, as if afraid the touch might leave a visible trace. Jimin lowered his eyes, trying to calm the storm in his chest. They kept walking, but something between them had shifted. The space felt warmer, closer, more dangerous for feelings long buried beneath friendship and professionalism. They stopped at a small cafe tucked away from the crowds. Sitting across from him, Jungkook watched Jimin laugh softly after mispronouncing the menu. The sound was light, but Jungkook's eyes softened immediately. There was something about Jimin, something fragile and radiant, that made Jungkook want to shield the world from ever hurting him. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Jimin asked, finally noticing. Jungkook shrugged. Because you look happy. Jimin paused. Then his smile grew gentler. I am. They both knew it wasn't just the coffee, or the city, or the rare moment of rest. The happiness came from something deeper, something that had existed long before Lisbon, surviving schedules, cameras, and the weight of the world. As the afternoon faded, they sat by the Tagus River. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. Jungkook sat with his knees drawn up, while Jimin leaned quietly against his shoulder. There was no question. No permission asked. Only trust, built through years of choosing each other again and again. Jungkook didn't move. He breathed slowly, allowing Jimin's weight to settle into him as if it belonged there. If one day all of this ends, Jimin whispered, barely louder than the wind, you'd still sit next to me like this, right? Jungkook turned to him, his voice calm but unwavering. I'll always be there. No matter where we are. Jimin closed his eyes, letting the Lisbon sunset hold that promise. Night arrived wrapped in glowing city lights. Once again, they stood on the balcony, closer this time. Jimin rested his head on Jungkook's shoulder without hesitation. Jungkook lifted his arm, paused, then gently wrapped it around Jimin's waist. The gesture was simple, almost shy, yet the meaning behind it was immense. No cameras. No witnesses. Just Lisbon, the night, and two hearts finally tired of pretending. In a city that demanded no explanations, Jimin and Jungkook found the courage to be honest, if only with themselves. What they shared was not mere closeness. Not habit. Not coincidence. It was a quiet love that grew stronger every time they chose each other, silently, relentlessly. Lisbon may have been only a brief stop on their journey. But for Jikook, it would forever remain the place where their love breathed freely. Where the smallest touches felt like vows. Where silence spoke louder than words. And perhaps, somewhere in the quiet corners of Lisbon, that love still lingers, waiting patiently for them to return. And maybe, that's how some love is meant to exist. Not to be announced. Not to be proven. But to be felt, quietly, consistently, and without conditions. In Lisbon, Jimin and Jungkook didn't need promises or explanations. They only needed presence. A shoulder to lean on. A hand that stayed just a second longer. A silence that understood more than words ever could. The world may keep moving, schedules may tighten, and distances may return. But moments like these don't disappear. They settle softly in memory, becoming something warm to return to on the hardest days. Because love doesn't always ask to be seen. Sometimes, it only asks to be held, gently, honestly, and with care. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts below. And as always, this is Na Diorpop, where quiet moments speak the loudest, and love lingers, even after the screen fades to black. White heart sparkles.